So this week we have Mick O'Brien.
So Mick, we do a podcast, right? And it's fucking interesting. And I like the ones where the vulnerability is the place where we're comfortable. We'll talk about our masks, but won't necessarily sit behind them.
Yeah.
And we talk about why we use them, why they're effective, and why we should fucking shed them like that bleeding snake skin.
I've listened to all of them. You don't hear that stuff anywhere else. Like, I was on the Two Norries podcast. They're fairly deep, like, you know what I mean? They're very deep, and you become very vulnerable on it. This is different. What yous are doing is different.
So what I think about the Two Norries is they do from where did you start, what was the trauma, what was the healing, where are you now?
Yeah.
Great. And there's all that space out there.
And there is, yeah.
There's all that lovely space.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck is going on space. Yeah. You showed us how you got that scar. Now,
what's ahead?
What happened next year?
What the fuck?
I'm just plain terror.
Here, fuck off, will you? Fresh, yeah?
Shut the fuck up!
The great thing about podcasting is you can say, welcome to episode 8. Welcome to episode 7. Use whatever one you want.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let's do that, right? So this is episode 7. So this is episode 8.
Yeah, Jerry, we'll do the hip-hop one. Boy! Yeah! I'm going to use all these in it at the start of some of them we were doing like...
Oh, you were doing it. So this week... Go on, Dean. You beatbox. So this week we have Mick O'Brien, who wears lots of different hats and coats and scarves. So Mick happens to be my lecturer in college. All messing aside, our favourite lecturer of all the class. Like, we absolutely love Mick. And I'm not just saying that because I want 65% next year. But,
you're aiming high, Sparky.
So I got 63 the first year, 62 the second year, and 61 this year. That's all right, isn't it?
My lecturer used to say, you have 100%, it's up to you to fuck it up. So essentially,
I like that.
What you're getting there, Sparky, is you're not doing the work.
So Mick also is a singer with the band The Druids, an amazing band who I have watched over the last, I don't know how many years. How many years you going, Mick?
15 years.
When I first met you were kind of a very Republican band, and was deadly, and you were real into the history of the songs and all that kind of stuff, and you had a couple of different lineup changes. But I went to see you, not very recently, but I went to see you in Newbridge, and I have to say I was absolutely just blown away at how captivating you were for the crowd. You have a younger band, there's younger people in the band. You have the sweet vocals of Gary Lawler, who absolutely the best ballad singer in Ireland today. Yourself, who is, rousing up the crowd and giving a bit of history, giving a bit of crack, re-raw agus riula bula. And then the two lads with the accordion and the guitar. And so you've everything in there, but the crowd were dancing. And I was like, what is going on here? Because before it was like a folk band where the four of you stood there and sang rebel songs.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm sure, like, even that night, people were coming up to you and saying, just Mick, where's the rebel songs? And you were like, it's 2023, mate. Like,
Yeah. It's interesting, I think, that the evolution of the band, like, I think, there's no doubt that when we started back in 2007, I think it was, the three members that were in the band at the time, our politics were very much the same. I grew up in a Republican household. I grew up in a Republican housing estate, a Republican community, a Republican county of Wexford. And so I inherited that kind of Republican beliefs. And, over the years, I kind of read into history and I kind of educated myself in terms of Irish history. And I suppose, the band then reflected them politics. And we would have at one stage, well, it's not just me that says this, but everybody says this, that we were the number one rebel band in Ireland.
Absolutely.
And Scotland and other Celtic nations, even across America at
Absolutely.
the time. And, it was a lofty kind of position to be in. Given that my politics are socialist Republican politics, and then all of a sudden people are telling you you're the number one rebel band in wherever. And it was absolutely lovely for a while. And, we were cruising, absolutely flying. Like, we played to, I don't know, like, we played to 5,000 people. We played to 30,000 people in America. We played to, like, we done television shows in America, radio shows in America, like, where there's millions of people listening, and all that's brilliant, right? It really is brilliant. But coming to I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, you know, the kind of political situation in Ireland has changed, you know, and you know, the aspirations of republicanism has also changed as well. You know, I think we're gone back. The whole Republican politics now has gone back to the ethos of Wolfe Tone, which is around equality, you know, is around inclusion, is around participation, is around empowerment and so on. And the vision for a new Ireland is that based on equality. And so I think as a band, we just had to start reflecting that ourselves. And I found myself many times standing on a stage, whether it's a theatre or a venue or whatever, and there was issues that I wanted to sing about and there's songs that I wanted to cover. But because we were pigeonholed as a rebel band, we couldn't break outside of that.
What's the difference, Mick?
Well, a rebel band is generally seen as a Republican band. Is a band.
You said Socialist Republic, so there's a socialist part there, as in.
Well, I'm a Socialist Republican.
But so you have a rebel band for the Republicans, and then you have Socialist Republic.
Oh, what's the difference?
Yeah. What's the difference there? Like,
well, I suppose
like why aren't you a rebel band? Why have a distinction? Is a rebel band for the historic, romantic association with the stuff gone past and not looking at the future of you know, where we're going as a country?
I think that's a very good synopsis of it. I think, and I think it's also necessary, and I think it should be there. I think that idea of looking back at our past and, you know,
come on, you tanks and bombs and stuff.
Absolutely, all of that. I think there's part of our culture, is Irish culture, because, like, again, being in that position as being part of the number one rebel band in Ireland, you know, people took pot shots at us all the time, like, you know, kind of saying that, you're glorifying this and you're glorifying that and you're glorifying the other and all this kind of stuff. Where in fact, what they missed was that what we were doing was that we were honouring the people who had went before us, because in Ireland, under occupation and up until the foundation of the Free State in Ireland, we were not allowed to honour people. There's no monuments of stone. There was no monuments of stone to honour patriots where there was in other countries. If you go to England, if you go to Spain, if you go to whatever, in every town, every city, every village, there's a statue, there's a monument.
We want ours.
Exactly. But our monuments are our songs.
That's it.
Woohoo! That's a nice one, Michael.
Yeah, they are.
That's a nice one. And I think there is a difference between what you were explaining at the start. And I think some of it is hidden in behind what you just said there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But our monuments are our songs, but the future of this country is not based in songs.
Well, I think songs have had, and I believe will have, a vital role to play in the way this country moves forward politically. Because I think to look at where we're going into the future, we have to understand where we came from. Okay, and if we don't understand where we came from, I don't think we have a foundation to move forward.
We also need to understand where the fuck we are right here, right now.
Yes, we do.
Because I said romantic, and looking back at where we came from is fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
But one of the running themes in this podcast that we've explored is what the fuck is happening right here, right now.
Yeah.
And what can we do about it? What control do we have, and what do we have to let go of?
Yeah.
There's a couple of things I want to say. One is I was introducing Mick, and I was saying about him being in the band, and I was saying about him being a lecturer. And he also runs a radio show called Sinead that's been running for 30 years, is it, Mick?
25.
25 years. And I've been involved in that with Mick, like, you know what I mean? I've been, you know, inviting guests up and stuff like that. But I listen to it. I'm allowed to listen to the show. I understand, you know, Mick talks about this stuff, like, you know, talks about the songs and the history and stuff. But he doesn't only play rebel songs on the show. He plays, like, I wouldn't have been a fan of the Saw Doctors, right? But I would have loved them. But I probably would have felt that they were a bit jingoistic or something like that. But Mick played a song one time, and it's about a young fella growing up in a town, bored out of his nut, just wandering around the place. And it caught me, you know? So the songs, he's right, you know, our songs, when we sing about ourselves and we hear about ourselves in song, I'm not only talking about the monuments, you know what I mean, but I'm also talking about ourselves, like, in our, and one of the big, like, Mick is saying, I played to 30,000 people in America. Why aren't you playing to 30,000 people in Ireland? Like, okay. Yeah. And one of the reasons is that all the Irish music is gone. Like if you were talking about Spain and stuff like that. So you go to Spain, you listen to the radio in Spain, it's all Spanish songs, right? You go to, there's lots of, I suppose in the UK, it's a much, much bigger audience, so you have all different types of stations. But in Ireland, the national broadcaster will play Irish bands and Irish artists, of course, are probably the best at it, right?
You're saying the national broadcaster plays Irish songs, and yes, they do. They have a quota that they have to reach, right? Instigated by the BCI, right? That they have to play a percentage of Irish songs, whatever it is. But in that percentage is Westlife.
Is
Boyzone.
Yeah, I know that.
Bewitched is, which
real rebels.
Well, Jedward.
Now, don't slay Jedward, because I will knock you the fuck out. I know you're a big fella. Jedward are actually the ballsiest,
absolutely,
the ballsiest wanky band in Ireland.
They are,
absolutely.
They are.
No, and Jedward, recently in Ballymun, there was a thing happened, right? There was people left out of pocket, for something, and this.
Can you say what it is? Because it sounds like a fucking James Bond episode.
This woman who would never fought anything or done anything, right? Like that, and would have been just looked over, was the one that fought it. Asked the question and then got the answer, and it was kind of like it says in the Bible: the stone that the builder refused becomes the cornerstone. You know what I mean?
It's a Bob Marley song as well.
Well, it's a quote from the Bible, yeah. So the stone that the builder refused becomes the cornerstone, right? And that's Jedward. Everybody just thought them as this jingo, rubbishy band, but they were the ones that started to challenge when they were invited onto media to come on as the jingo. They took it and went political, and I love that. I love that about them. I absolutely thought that was amazing that they used their prominence or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
in a real different way, and it threw everybody. People were throwing, going, "What is going on here?" But I want to say this about Irish music, right? Like we went to see Damien Dempsey, right, in Ivy Gardens. I'm sure you went yourself. So there's thousands of people there, and so he's there singing, and he's doing what you're talking about. He's when Dean is saying, "What about the now?" That's what he's singing about. He's singing about the now, and he's singing about the trauma. He's singing about the recovery. He's singing about the hurt, the pain, but he's also singing about the hope, when he has Soul Son and all these songs, what I mean? So it's there. There's also other stuff going on, in this community we have Adam Muhammad, amazing poet, they're never invited into the mainstream.
I think that's something that I have, I suppose that we as a band have had to deal with over the years of actually accepting that you're never going to be part of the mainstream. You're never going to be there. Like there was a time back many years ago where, we would have been kind of saying among ourselves, Jesus, if we could get the Late Show, that'd be great. You know what I mean? And you go from X amount every night to X amount every night. Yeah. And, but I had to come to a place where I started accepting that that's not going to happen. So if that's not going to happen and you're not going to be invited into the establishment and you're not going to be accepted by the establishment, what do you do?
Yeah. What are we in control of?
Yes.
And what we're not in control of is anything other than our thoughts, feelings, our aspirations.
Yeah.
And I think the going from 5,000 people to 100,000 people is an aspiration. And I'm not saying don't have them. I'm just saying, why are you having that aspiration? What hole in you do you need to fill with 100,000 people? What hole do you need to fill with a monument? What hole do you need to fill in you with that song?
Yeah.
What are we in control of? What's the stuff that we can do right here, right now, and why do we have all of these other ways of measuring our own value, other metrics of measuring our value? Where the fuck did they come from? They didn't come from me. That doesn't come from my spiritual Celtic warrior soul.
Yeah.
That's something that's laid on top of me.
I think that's a really interesting point, and I think it's a place that I've come to myself certainly since COVID, no question about that. Since the figure 100,000, why can't we get to 100,000 people listening to the Druids? Let's hypothetically say we do get 100,000 people. So now, is it 200,000 next? Is it 300,000 after that, or what? So I've come to a place in myself, and it's been a great learning for me.
I just got the shivers.
I have. It doesn't matter a fuck.
Doesn't matter the fuck.
It doesn't matter a fuck. If there's one, I often say this to Sparky, I have said it to him in the past. When I present my radio show,
Yeah.
I have a vision in my head, and it's been with me for 25 years, that there's an old man down in Ringsend. I don't know why Ringsend, right? I have no idea why Ringsend, but he's in a little cottage, one of them fucking 2-bedroom cottages, and he lives on his own, and he's listening to Mick O'Brien on the radio, and he's the only one that is listening to Mick O'Brien on the radio.
So that's who you're talking to.
And that's who I'm talking to when I present radio. So,
And it's actually only just a representation of yourself.
Exactly.
And your own insecurities.
Exactly.
That's who you are.
Exactly.
You're playing to yourself, Mick.
Playing to myself is right. You're dead right.
As opposed to playing with yourself.
That's a different show.
That's a different show. But with the band, right, with the band and the numbers and stuff, obviously it's wonderful if loads of people turn up. But if 7 people turn up to the gig, I can still have a good night. And I can still enjoy myself, and I can still do what I need to do and feel fulfilled going home. And that's the point.
It's the busking thing for me. It's the punking thing for me. Get out and stand on the street and play your songs.
Yeah.
Whoever happens to fall past you in the wind,
Yeah.
good luck to it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that might inspire other opportunities and things and mistakes, and you might lose a string or whatever. But get up and sing the fucking song.
I think what's important is that you sing the song, right? That's very important. And whoever needs to hear it is going to hear it. I believe that now as well, right? And I think the other thing as well is that, so we were talking about you're not going to be part of the establishment, right? So we accept that. So what is it that we can do? What we can do is we can do it our way. Absolutely do it our way. Facebook is great. Do you know what I mean? Facebook Lives, we record our own albums. We've never had a manager. We've never had agents. We've never had bookers. We've never had fucking A&R men. We've never had a record deal. We've never had any of that. It's all in-house. It's all among ourselves.
And it harps back to a thing that Linko said last week. We had Ryan Lincoln on, and he opened with, how's your managerial skills? Can you come and manage me? And I was like, bro, what you don't need is a manager.
Yeah.
What you absolutely need, 180 degrees, the opposite of that. You need to just grab it by the bollocks.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying it for Ryan. I've said it to loads of people. I've said it to me nieces are in the band. I've said it to them. Just manage it all yourself until it becomes unmanageable, and then you're in a unique, privileged position then.
Yeah.
So I listened to the radio this morning. There's a guy from Drogheda who has made Baz Black.
Okay.
He's the tattoo guy.
Oh, yeah. He's an actor, isn't he?
He's an actor, yeah. And he was in Cain, and he's just directed a film about the Dublin punk scene, you know?
Yeah.
So he started talking about the punk ethos, and I was thinking, he's a Robin that I always talk about the punk ethos. But I think the Druids are a punk band.
Yeah.
Right? I don't mean, that 3 chords and...
Well, punk is an attitude.
It's an attitude.
I was just about to say that hip-hop's an attitude, punk is an attitude.
It is.
Rebel songs is an attitude.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
There's a lot of attitude around.
There's a lot of fucking attitude, boys.
So, here, I always remember listening. Like, so my first introduction to music was in my granny's house in Yellow Road, and they had a gramophone. My aunt worked in Bush, making radios, and there's a funny story there. We used to. She was on
with your granny's Bush.
She was on an assembly line. That was a different episode. Trim.
We didn't know Granny's Bush was harmed in the making of this podcast.
My ma walked into the house one day, and she had a shears in her hand. She says, "Ray, will you come out the back and trim me bush?" We were like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, I'm so happy you said that, so then my one can stay in.
So here, but my auntie used to work on an assembly line doing putting together wire looms for tellies, right? But she could never keep up with it when she was there, right? So she used to bring all the gear home, right? And we used to be sitting there watching the 2 channels fucking go to bed 1 and go to bed fucking 2, right? The fucking sweet brush handle as a remote control, like, you know what I mean? And be doing all our work, right? But, so she worked in Bush, and she was in a music club in Bush where she paid £1 a week, probably £1 a week, into a fund. And then she got records at the end of the month, right?
Right.
So she had all the Wolf Tones, all the Dubliners. She had everything, but she never listened to it really.
Yeah.
She didn't really have a big... she didn't have the record player out all the time playing.
You know, when you were talking there, Sparky, about like the Wolf Tones and the Dubliners and the Furies and, in my opinion, legendary bands that have went before us, they're the giants that we stand on the shoulders of, right? The thing that occurs to me is and this is fact, that there's 2 countries in the world that you can tell the full social history of the country from their folk songs.
Yes.
China is one and Ireland is the other.
Oh, right.
And Ireland, because of the penal laws back in the 1700s, where we were forbidden and Irish culture was being oppressed and wanted to be eradicated. The Brits wanted to eradicate Irish culture. So the music became stronger, and plus the stories started to be written down in song and carried orally from one to the other. So that social history is there. But if we think about today, and I know Dean was keen to talk about today and moving forward, the social history is still being recorded in song.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Jinx Lennon, right? Stop giving out about Nigerians.
Yeah.
What a fucking song, like. City of Styrofoam Cups, right? Or you look at Dempsey, or look at Kieran Moran. If you look at people like that who either consciously or subconsciously are the recorders of history, because the people in power write the history. Those who suffer write the songs.
Yeah.
So the real history is in the songs, if you think about it.
And you see, so what happened to me was I started pulling out records, and I remember the first record that I took out was a single, and it was Roy Orbison, and I listened to that, and it was a double A side, right? And that caught me, and that just got me, right? So I kept going back to it, and then I was listening. She had everything folk, like all absolutely amazing stuff, like, so I kept going back to it. But then when I went to first year, I was introduced to punk, and it was the Sex Pistols. That I was in first year in 1980, so it was 3 years after the whole punk thing. So punk was kind of on its way uphill. We're starting to kind of come in.
Public Image
Limited. John Lydon, who was the singer with the Sex Pistols, created, which I think is his best band, because it's really, it is.
What was the single that had, you put a hot wire to my head?
Yeah. Rise.
Right.
Yeah.
What a great song.
So what happened to me was, I was listening to the punk in me gaff and Coolock, right? And it was all Sex Pistols and Crass and really heavy stuff, like, you know what I mean? But then when I was up in my granny's, I was still returning to the radiogram, because I love all that, like, but the one thing I remember one day listening to a folk song, I listened to a punk song, and I said, they're talking about the same thing.
Look, the Dubliners were a punk band. No question about it. They had the attitude of a punk band. They had the songs that were pushing a mirror up to society. Yeah. The same as what the Sex Pistols were doing, or the Damned were doing, or Crass were doing, or whatever. Yeah. They were holding up an image, holding up a mirror to society and saying, have a look at this here. Do you know what I mean?
Two-tone.
Again, like the whole ska stuff.
So I grew up as a punk. I was a punk, spiked my hair and all that kind of stuff. And we were into Stiff Little Fingers, and we were into that kind of stuff. And it was as innocent as anything. But then we had a mate, Graham, who was a ska, right? And he had all the ska stuff.
I was a ska.
I know that, Mick.
Yeah,
and I remember we were at a disco one night, and it's getting cleared out, like, you know, and this woman comes up to me and she goes, "You left your jacket," right? And it was a Harrington jacket, and it had Madness on the back of it, and I took it and I put it on, and, you know, went home with it. This is in the 80s when you hadn't a screen. Like, you know, like, I have a Harrington now, but I couldn't wear the Madness on the back of it, right?
Right.
I mean, Ma was great at sewing and knitting and all that kind of stuff. And I found an old T-shirt that had ripped, and I just cut the image off the T-shirt and sewed it onto the back when my Ma did.
What's ska?
Ska.
No, I kind of think I know what ska is, because I was doing a bit of Bob Marley.
It's the predecessor to reggae.
Yeah.
It's the predecessor to reggae.
Yeah. There was two-tone. That type of stuff was interesting, especially two-tone, because it was like, there's black fellas there, there's white fellas there, let's make a fucking band.
Absolutely.
And let's make black and white music, and let's make it as black and white as possible. We like singing songs with black fuckers. We like singing songs with white fuckers. And for me, it was very direct.
It was.
It was very immediate.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one, Free Nelson Mandela?
I do.
It was very fucking immediate. And I remember saying to Dempsey and to Glenn, what value any of your songs if you look out the window and we're all on the fucking streets? Do you know what I mean? And yes, I get the songs, but I remember being up in Belfast at a rebel thing, and a band was playing, and it was just a load of fucking drunk fuckers singing songs, but not doing anything about it.
Yeah, I think we have probably played hundreds of them things that you're talking about, thousands of them. I think if you go a little bit deeper, though, I think if you push in a little bit deeper, that yes, on the surface, that's the way it comes across, and you have people shouting and roaring and wearing Celtic jerseys and, you know, what up the Ra and all this kind of stuff. And yes, that does happen. But I think if we push in a little bit further, people actually do get educated or get an insight from a particular song. So the amount of times that's happened to me, thousands of times, where people would say, "Oh, that song I heard you singing." Well, one of them that they will say all the time is one of my own songs that I wrote about James Connolly, but wrote it from a different perspective. And they'd say, "Oh, I heard you singing that song," and I went home and started researching that element of Connolly. So Connolly publicly is obviously known for his participation in the Rising and the leadership in the Rising in 16, but the socialist element to his life is kind of airbrushed out. And that song that I wrote is about that. And so people will go home and start researching and I think that's where the education happens. So I think...
Yeah, and I think, like, us three, we're kind of outliers in terms of our social activity, our community activity.
Yeah.
Not everyone... Actually, most people don't do community to the level that we do it.
Yeah.
Most people are on the inside of that, where it's like, I just want to hear a rebel song. And I think, harping back to the question that I asked at the start, what's the difference? I think that's the difference. We're very hands-on active. And then there's the other side of it.
But some people...
Do you know what I mean? Which is like the rebel, romantic, we just want to hear songs. Because I watched the video the other day of the Dublin team. They were playing in the pub.
That's right.
And, you know, the who's who of the singers were there, and it was like we asked, why aren't these on the radio? And I think that those videos probably got more fucking airing than anything I've seen in the last couple of days. So there is something there where we want to sing the songs, we want to celebrate it, but we also just want to listen to songs, and we don't want to do the next bit outside of it.
And remember what happened with the women's Irish team when they were singing "Ooh Ah Up the Ra," and there was a big controversy about it. I thought, to me, that was the eye of it. That was, what did you call them, Mick? The establishment, right?
Yeah.
The establishment are like, we don't want to know about that. We don't want you talking, we don't want you singing about that. But go on TikTok any day, go on Instagram any day, go on Facebook any day, and it's all there. And they have no control over that. And those mediums are now the big mediums with young people. Those platforms are the big platforms with younger people that are, you know, and they can be negative as well. They can push mad shit. They can push right-wing shit and whatever. Like, I'm not saying it's all positive, but what I'm saying is that, you know, we're losing RTE. RTE is starting to become this crumbling dinosaur, like, you know what I mean? And I read the other day that since the scandal, they've lost 3 million in licensing. So normal people, so you're talking about the person who's going, "Ooh, ah, up there, I want to throw on a Celtic jersey," right? Sometimes they get pushed to action. Like the water charges. People said no. People who never ever joined a demonstration before. There was people in wheelchairs that were getting pushed up O'Connell Street who were called to action, who stood to action. That's happening now. There's a quiet revolution going on at the minute where people are saying, "I'm not paying me licensing fee," and they can go away.
And we're doing it collectively without a big discussion between us. We know it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice one.
And
I think that's good.
Don't pay our license. This podcast is sponsored by Don't Pay Our Fucking License, you mad bastard.
.com.
I think I recently put up a post, not that posts have much value these days, but anyway, I put one up because I was just compelled to put it up. And in the post, I was kind of talking about my love of radio and presenting radio over the years. And then at the end of it, I was kind of talking about that. I've had a realization that, you know, the wages that a particular television and radio presenter was being paid, and the cover up of the slush fund and the barter fund and all that kind of stuff would pay probably about 10 radio presenters.
Yeah.
To work for a year on the national broadcaster. 10.
You're trying to add Mick logic to this.
Well, I'm trying to, but it probably to add logic, it has to be met by logic. And there probably isn't logic on the other side. There isn't logic
on the other side. There's nothing logical about it.
No.
It's control. It's being managed.
Yeah.
And what you're suggesting is that we can do our own thing.
Yeah.
3 of these kids are doing their own thing. They have podcasts and radio shows.
But Mick has a radio show. Mick has a radio show that doesn't have a license. So it's basically... It's a pirate station, but it's legal because it's not on FM. It's not on the airwaves.
So actually, we have to kind of be thankful to RTE because they're showing us where the exit through the gift shop. They're showing us where the fucking exit is. The exit is Stop looking for it to be done for you and get up and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I think the other thing about this as well, which really pisses me off sometimes, right? And I have to look at why it pisses me off, right? Is that, there's a late night radio show on the national station, and on my way home from gigs, I'll tune into it from time to time. And sometimes there's really great presenters on a really, really good presenter playing savage music, and it's really good, right? I've plugged onto it there recently, and there was the daughter of a very famous singer in Ireland presenting it, right? And I went, oh no, like really, like,
Yeah.
and she was brutal, like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
And there's another one. There's another
It
one.
wasn't just his daughter. She was shy.
She was like, do you know? And
What are you fucking listening to it for then? You
Well,
bleeding, griping fuck.
I fucking turned it off, right? I turned it off. But what I'm saying is that the opportunity was given to her. Because of who her family is and because of who her, like, Sparky is not going to get a run on it. Do you know what I mean? Dina's not going to get a run on it.
They wouldn't put me ahead in the tail near fucking on you.
Your show is running for 15 years and it's an amazing
25 years.
It's an amazing show. And just check it out, guys. Nice Radio. What is it, Mick?
NaceRadioOnline.ie.
Nice
Frank's
Radio
an avid fan. What is it, Mick?
No,
NaceRadioOnline.ie. You say it, Dave. You say it really good.
Sorry. NiceRadioOnline.ie for all your rebel madness.
So here, Mick's show is deadly, and it is podcasted on it, so you can get his last show was deadly. And I actually said to Mick, there wasn't one song on it that I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go and make a cup of tea. I was listening to the whole show,
Deadly.
and actually, I had it on in the car because I suppose with Wi-Fi and data and all that kind of stuff. But then when I got into the job, and I work in the community centre, I put it on the speakers, and they didn't ask me to turn it off, and they listened to it. No. And now Mick did a request for them, like, you know what I mean, and they love to hear that. You don't get that anymore. Like, there's not that community thing. No. Like when we were kids, we go down and we tap the phone. We go to the local phone box and tap the number and ring up ARD and say to them, say a request for Sparky and Jeff.
We done one. We were on a bus. Sparky was taking us on a trip somewhere, and we rang into a radio station, and they done a request, and we were going, "Can you just give a big shout out to Egga, Chippa, Soso, Rasha, Beansy?" And your man went with it. Your man goes, "You must be going for a breakfast there."
No, he said we're all
breakfast club.
We're all in Sharon's Cafe in Ballymun, and he just read it. It was one of them. Remember them boom, boom, boom stations?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And he was, "This goes out there, Sasa, Rasha, Puda, Musha, Chip, Bundy, Boga, and all in Sharon's Cafe." And it was deadly.
So, Mick, welcome to Ballymun.
Thank you.
It's great to see you.
Fair.
I was actually wasn't emotional, but I was really happy to see you. Well, that is an emotion, but I gave you a big hug. You look great. I'm really interested in where the fuck you are, because we have a bit of a history, me and you. Sparky reminded me earlier on, we done a community addiction studies course probably 30 years ago.
It is 30 years ago, yeah.
And that's when community addiction studies was starting.
It was the first one.
Yeah, it was the first one. I'm not sure if me and Sparky done it, but I definitely done the first ever youth work course delivered by Fran McFay in Whitehall College.
Yeah.
I would have loved the sound of you and the look of you back then. And I know you've been on an amazing fucking journey as well. So Sparky was introducing you. How would you introduce yourself? I'm interested in
Jesus, some question.
Without selling like yourself down the river or bigging yourself up too much. Who the fuck are you, like?
Who am I? It's a really good question, and I'd probably spend fucking 50 years at this stage trying to figure that out, right? But and maybe from day to day it differs, But I suppose really what I would like to think that in everything that I do, I espouse the values of equality and empowerment, and that's really what I'm trying to work with, whether it's through teaching or whether it's the radio show or the band or whatever the case may be. I think I'm a decent human being, I think I am, and without getting into, I don't want to go into the past too much, but
listen to the Two Norries podcast if you want Mick's backstory.
Exactly, and I don't want to go there again. But what's prevalent in my mind as I was driving up the M50 today, in terms of yourself, was that I haven't seen you in years, like years and years and years. And it brought me back to that community addiction studies course that we done together.
Because we were trying to suss out what the fuck is addiction and why is it in my family?
Exactly, all that kind of stuff, right? But I was learning to read and write when I was doing that course, right? And that's the memory that stays with me. about that course because I was illiterate and I was learning to read and write, and I got great confidence from that course because we had to produce something at the end of it. Can't remember what it was, but we had to produce something at the end of it, and it was the first document that I'd ever wrote.
Wow.
It was just it wasn't a grading kind of thing, but to pass the course, you had to produce something. I think it was a program.
It was your first works.
Yeah,
yes,
I did it the year
something
after.
like that.
Yeah.
And it was the first.
Because I done a similar thing. I done my first works. I actually got to go over to the Hacienda and study the effects of ecstasy on a group of ravers.
Wow.
Right? And it was funded through whoever the fuck funded it. Yap or whatever.
Yeah.
But me and another girl got to go over there. Went to the Hacienda, like the top rave spot, at the top of the rave scene in the UK.
That's amazing.
Wow.
It was fucking deadly.
Wow.
That bit, because just as you said that, you were illiterate and you got to produce this work, I seen an emotion coming up. Oh, it was lovely.
Dean, I'll tell you, like, it was. I'm actually.
Let it out, Mick.
I am, yeah, no, I'm getting.
Tell you what, don't let it out. Keep it in there and let it fucking fester among your balls, you prick. Let it out, will you?
To come to a point where you have this fucking document in front of you, right, and something that you believe, and your kind of whole kind of makeup, and have been told and have learned that you cannot do.
You're a fucking failure, you prick.
Yeah, yeah.
It's validation,
There
Mick,
it is.
isn't it?
And there it is in front
It's
of you.
validation.
Yeah.
And funny, Mick, right? I have the same. I know what you're talking about. I'm not illiterate, right? And I grew up being able to read and write. But I have another thing, and I don't know what it is. You know, it's some ism or something within me. But I have a handbrake when it comes to writing. You know, so when I do it, when I actually sit down with the laptop, what happens to me is it has to be in by 8 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah.
And midnight, I'm writing it, okay, the night before. And I get it done and I bang it in. And then a month later, I read it and I go, fuck, that was deadly. Right? So it's there.
Yeah.
It's in me. I have it. I have the information. I know what has to be done. I know the format that it has to go out in. But there's something stopping me. It's an insecurity. It's heavy. It's heavy on me, Mick. You know, it's a heavy thing. And
It's a blockage in your arm. This is the way I visualize it, right? Because I know exactly what you're talking about. So you have the stuff in your head that you want to write, and you have it thought out, and you might have even done a bit of reading as well to kind of to back up what you're saying, right? So you have all that formulated in your head. So now you have to get it into the laptop. And the way I visualize that is that it comes to about my elbow.
Yeah.
And there's a blockage there in
Wow.
my elbow, right?
Yeah.
And my job is to get rid of the blockage.
Right.
And, you know, how I get rid of the blockage is I delete the shite that I've learned in my head, right? You can't do this. You don't belong here. You're an imposter, you know?
Yeah.
You're fucking all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And sure, this college is only for fucking, you know,
Academic.
posh fuckers. Do you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. Delete all that stuff in my
That's
head.
the best gear to hold on to for the rest of your life.
Well, in some ways it's motivating.
What I'm saying is, that was a little bit ironic. What I'm saying is,
it's
as much as that shit as you can clear out,
absolutely.
it's a wholesale clear out.
Yeah, it is. Get rid of the fucking thing.
And you see, Mick, I still have, right? Like, so I still have the who does he think he is, right? .com in my head, right? I have to watch that too.
So when you walk around the campus in Maynooth, right?
Yeah.
As I do see you walking around.
No, you know.
And sometimes we walk around together, right?
Right. No,
But as you walk around the campus in Maynooth, and you're walking from the building where you are over to the John Hume building to get a coffee or something, right? What's in your head?
so what's in my head now, right? Because you have to remember, and I've spoken about this before, I am in recovery, right? And recovery has given me opportunities that I never had before in my life. And one of the opportunities that has presented to me was education. And so when I went to college, I actually arrived in college in COVID, and there was only a few of us in a room. I'm in college with, you know, I'm in the best class, like they're great crack, like, you know what I mean? And there's, I think there's, I don't know whether it's half and half, but it's travelers and settled people. And it's absolutely deadly, right? And we have the crack, we have the rows, we have the thing, and it's deadly. I have this thing that me and Scurry have, right? Whereas when we go into a space, we own the space, right? And so when I went into Maynooth, that wasn't there. We went down to this open day, right? And it was Sinn Féin, and there was people recruiting. There was somebody with a trombone. He's repeating, who was getting people into a music group. And
it's the clubs and societies.
The clubs and societies, right?
Yeah.
So I was standing there, right, and there's a guy in my class who is a former Republican prisoner, right? And he was going over winding up the Sinn Féin lads, right, at the desk, right? So we were having the crack, like, you know what I mean? And so we were having the crack anyhow, you know, and I drifted away a little bit, and I seen this young fella, and he was just standing there. In my mind, I was thinking, this guy would love to be over here, right? And he'd love to be joining a society, and he'd love to be, but he can't, right? There's a blockage. There's a, what do you call it, the thing in your arm, right?
His elbow's fucked.
His elbow's fucked, right? So I just wandered over to him, and I said to him, what's the crack? And he's like, he just didn't know what to say to me. He's just looking at me, right? So country lad from rural part of Ireland, and just stuck, right? Absolutely stuck. So I was chatting to him and I was saying, did you join any of the things? And he said, no, I'd love to, but I'm very shy, you know. And I said, don't worry. I said, do you want a hand? Come over and we'll have a look and see. So I went over and we were having a look, you know. And he turned around to me and he two big tears in his eyes, and he says, you're the first person that spoke to me since I came to college. Right? And I was like...
But that's why you were there, Sparky. That's one of the reasons why you were there.
And that's like your mate in Ring's End.
Exactly.
What all you're doing is looking for yourself to get a little bit of value of yourself.
That's right.
And what the emotion that you showed a few minutes ago was the value that I got from myself there. I put the effort in, and I wasn't waiting around for the external validation from the outside, whoever. Me ma, me da, the Brits, the Americans, Sinn Féin, or whoever the fuck, you know what I mean, in your head when you're singing rebel songs is giving you that validation. You done a bit of work. You done the work. And so I have a really unique position, right? As in, my self-esteem is 100 all the time. It always has been.
Not always, dude.
No, the self-esteem has always been 100. There's another thing in behind that. Which is my ability. Once I match my ability with my self-esteem, it's in my head, it's world class all the time. You know what I mean? It's just, it couldn't be any better. So I have to just up my ability.
Yeah.
The self-esteem is always there.
Yeah. I seen that with you, actually. Remember, there's lots of stuff coming back to me this morning. I seen that. I remember you doing that course and you bounced into the course. I mean, I came in like I was nervous and I was fucking out of my depth, and nervous about being able to read, being able to write. Plus, I didn't have a Dublin accent either, and I was probably the only culture in the place right at the time. And I remember you bounced into the room. I can see it still, and you absolutely took over the fucking room, man.
Yeah.
And I was going, "Who the fuck is this fella?" And you continued that for the whole course, and you owned it yourself. And I was never that type of person. I never had full confidence and full self-esteem. I never had it. And I still don't have it. But I've learned to accept where I am at and what I do have at the moment, you know? And sometimes it fluctuates as well. It goes up and down. And I think, you know, Sparky's talking about it in recovery. I'm in recovery as well, many, many years, 32 years or something now. So I think part of our condition, well, I'll talk about myself, but maybe you'll agree, I don't know.
Yeah.
Part of our condition is that fluctuation in terms of confidence, self-esteem and so on. Would you agree with me?
Within a 24-hour period, Mick.
Within an hour.
Within the ability to breathe in and breathe out.
Because I, like, so me and you were walking over here and we were talking about the darkness, right? Yeah. Because we, you know, I've spoken to Dane, you know, we've wandered into the darkness in ourselves, like, you know what I mean? And sometimes when we wander into the darkness, all those voices that we're talking about, like, you know, that you're not welcome, you know, all this kind of stuff, they get you, like, you know what I mean? And like, I have that ability that Dean is talking about, right? I think it's funny because when the two of us are in the same room, it works. Normally when you have two people with that same energy, it doesn't work, like, you know what I mean? And it ends up, they don't like each other. Me and Dean, for whatever reason, feed off each other, which is great, like, you know? But
we also love each other.
That's the other thing, right? So then myself and Dean have joined things like, you know what I mean? Like we went years ago, we wanted to have a samba band in Ballymun, right? So we went and joined the samba band in town.
I remember when all that was going on.
So we went in and we just imposed ourselves in the samba band.
I can imagine that.
And, and I remember just the crack was 90, and it took them a long time for those people. They were cultures too. They were Southsiders. There were people that never had come across me and Dean, other than probably watching Crime Call or something like that, Their journey, right, was deadly, like, We would have went in and kind of, took over. We would have owned our space in it, like, and we would have been. So I've learned to develop that and use that. Like, so I work in youth work. When I go into a room, there's a group of young people. The energy is.
But are you playing a part then? Are you stepping
not
in?
Consciously. Right. Not consciously.
So are you stepping into the youth worker role? Like, when I worked as a youth worker, a group would come in at 4:00 and we'll put the chairs around in a circle and we'll look at doing the model of critical social education and we'll talk about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have went home to my own kids and said, let's sit around the table, lads, and we're going to discuss and come up with a consensus around.
They call you a wanker.
Well, they would. Do you know what I mean?
People I'm working with, right, we're not sitting around in a circle talking about critical social education because we are, because we have a podcast as well. Like, you know what I mean? So we are doing that, right? But we're doing it in a different creative way. And actually, recently we've started a music program up there.
Really?
And I just want to tell you about this young fella. We have a young fella who comes in who loves ballads and just wants to learn ballads, right? And I'm teaching him ballads. Right?
When am I going to meet him?
Oh, you'll have to meet him. He's a great young fella, So we have come up, Mick. Mick and the Druids have played in the project lots of times over the years, so we'll do that again and we'll get him up singing. We do that critical social education through the work that we're doing, right?
The thing that's in my head at the moment is about that kind of wearing masks, and I think we were talking about that at the start, wearing masks, and that confidence level fluctuating up and down. And what's coming to me here at the minute is that I think when a fundamental core belief or a fundamental image of yourself or whatever is challenged in me, right, when that's challenged, I think that instigates that fluctuation up and down for me, because you go and search then again. Do you know what I mean? Of something like my father passed away 2 months ago, and I had visualized his passing for about a year beforehand, and he wasn't sick.
Right.
He wasn't sick, right? But I had a feeling. I had a feeling that he was going to die. I was down in Wexford with a friend of mine on a Sunday, and we just happened to visit our family grave, my family grave, where my grandmother is, my grandfather, and so on. We were passing by, so just called in, and the person that I was with said to me, "How's your dad?" And I said, he's good, but I don't think he's much time left.
Yeah.
And he died the next day.
Are you serious?
Which was like that core, fundamental kind of pillar, belief, structure in your life is gone. Just gone like that, And I think that challenges that for me, it challenged myself, really. It challenged who I am. Do you know?
Foundation.
Foundation, that's the word I'm looking for. That's the word I'm looking for.
So what's coming?
Are you with me? Are you with me on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to kind of surmise the emotions of it, because the emotions are really fucking interesting. Yeah. There's a psychological thing happening, but there's also an emotional thing happening.
Yeah.
So Sparky does youth work, but he doesn't read it from the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus done love, but he didn't read from the book. So, and that's kind of what I bring to the table. I just do the thing that I know is the thing to do. And I'm not looking for me outside of me in Ringsend or in anybody else, you know what I mean, to have a relationship with. The relationship is with me. And what we do is we try and develop our relationship with ourselves through our Father.
Yes.
Yeah? Our Father is the rock. But actually, what you're going to realise is that's you. You're not only you and the rock, but you're also your father. And you're also the bosom of your mother. You're all of those. And that's really what we're trying to do. we're fighting through the forest and the wilderness and the 40 days and 40 nights to get to that lovely place. And it's fucking hard, but it's a lovely place. It's like jumping off the bungee jump thing. It's fucking shite right up until the point where there's that release, that emotion, that descent. And in the descent, and this is where addiction comes in that descent, there's a lovely place where you slam into the rock bottom and it gives you something solid to push off.
Yeah.
And your father is that solid thing. Mick is that solid thing to push off.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the gift of the rock bottom, you know, and it is a gift because you have to hit there before
it's grace.
Before you can rise again as such, you know.
You're free falling up until that point.
Yeah. And since he's passed, which is only, about 9 weeks or 10 weeks or something at this stage, since he's passed, a lot of things have changed for me. A lot of things internally have changed for me. In a good way, in a really good way, you know. I think I know I'm on my own now.
Great.
Which is brilliant, like.
It's great.
Which is not that he was never an imposing figure at all. And, you know, over the years, like, our relationship, we struggled. Me and him struggled together, like, over the years.
Well, you were expecting the fantasy, were you, Mick?
Well, I thought Little House on the Prairie was going to happen at some stage, but it never did, you know, and we'd knock heads and all that kind of stuff. But what we did have, and I'm so delighted to be able to say this, is what we did have is an understanding and a complete acceptance of each other. I accepted him 100% as he was, and he got to a place where he accepted me 100% as I am. We never needed to say anything to each other. We would know.
Hey, was there love?
What do you think? Of course there was love. Yeah. Of course there was. But we didn't need to say it, Dean.
No.
We didn't, because he wouldn't have said it. He never would have said it. You know, I would have, but he wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But I knew by the way he looked at me. I knew that, you know, or I knew the way when any of my sons were around, that he would look at them as a vision of me or whatever, or a legacy or whatever. And I felt that, like, you know what I mean? Isn't that a lovely thing? Isn't it?
It is lovely.
Love is a feeling, isn't it?
Oh, it fucking is, man. Yeah, of course.
For me, it's the big one. It's not just an emotion. It's not just a feeling, but it's the whole thing. It's the reason why I'm sitting in front of you having a conversation.
Yeah.
It's love. And it's not love as in sexual intimacy. It's love as in total acceptance and being very, very comfortable being vulnerable in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about in the lift on the way down. You know, where will we go with this? Well, let's go as far as we can go. I used to say, let's go from zero to existential as fast as we can, but that's comfortable for both of us, because we all know that that's the thing that will liberate us from our shackles of fear and shame and doubt and all that type of stuff. And let's admit that we have the masks, look at them, laugh at them, and then fuck them off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mick, loads of us see our friends through Facebook, and you're a good man for Facebook. And a couple of months ago, there was a picture of you, your dad, your kids, and your grandkids.
Yeah.
And you wrote something underneath it, which was deadly, like, you know. I think I was looking at the Ballymun site last night, and some woman put up loads of pictures, and Dean's sister is in the pictures of back in the day, the 80s, in the senior comp. There was 2 schools at the time, you know. And she wrote underneath it, we wrote on the back of the photographs the names of the people that was in them, you know what I mean? And I remember photographs were a thing. You know, there's a big bag, like a handbag of photographs in my ma's house, you know. And every now and again they come out and we have a giggle and all that kind of stuff. We don't seem to have that now because we use all my photographs are on my phone now, you know, so if the phone falls into the liffey, they're not as physical now as, you know, they're kind of up on Facebook and stuff like that, but they are still important. And I think, I remember understanding love when I seen that picture, you know, that it, you know, that was your family, like, you know what I mean, and that was part of you, like. And, you know, Dean saying about love, I remember being early to recovery this time, and this guy from Belfast talking about how he had encountered recovery, and he used that word love. He said, you know, there was lots of people saying to him, you need to fucking sort yourself out, and you need to fucking blah, 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 all this kind of stuff over his life. with his drinking and with his drugging and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until he went to a fellowship and there was a woman there who offered him a cup of tea, and instantly he felt love, you know. And
yeah,
you know, so love.
I think the word love is. I don't think we use it enough, and I certainly don't think we practice it enough. We don't like sitting here this morning. I've heard Dean using that word probably about 10 times, and every time
I'm very comfortable.
Yeah,
in the vulnerability of love.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful. I think it's really, really powerful. I would have a couple of people in my life. Obviously, apart from my kids, I tell them I love them every time I see them. Of course I do. But there would be a couple of men in my life that I would be, really good friends, and he's one of them. And every time we're on the phone, at the end of the phone call, Sparky.
Yeah, we say we love each other.
Yeah, and I think that's powerful. I really do. You know?
And I think that's what we're trying to. Once we discover it, that's what we're trying to share. Through whatever it is, through your songs, through the youth work, through the teaching in the college, through the radio station. We're just trying to connect that love, and something gets in the middle of it, and we have to navigate around it. Whether or not that's, let's say the RTE, we brought them up earlier on, they kind of manage that space in between. And we have an opportunity just to take a sidestep, as Bruce Lee says, just act like water, go around it, and just be love around it, go around it. And on the other side of it is that feeling. We think we have to go through their channel, let's say.
I think, I'm talking a lot about my dad today, which is brilliant.
I tell you what, don't talk about your dad. We love to hear about your dad. So I'm loving the emotions that are just sitting at the back of your throat there.
Yeah, they are there.
Yeah. Well, let them out then, you prick.
Yeah. I remember he said to me, I was giving out one time about, I think it was something to do with the band or something, and I was giving out fuck about, like, we're only earning such amount and we're only playing here and we're only playing there. And I remember him saying to me, who would you like to be like? And I said, well, sure, like, the Wolf Tones are packing them in, like, And he said, well, are the Wolf Tones playing the same amount of times you are playing? I said, yeah, they are, yeah. And he said, they're playing to bigger audiences than you. I said, yeah. He said, but are you singing the songs? Yeah, I'm singing the songs, yeah. And he said, they're getting paid more than you're getting paid. I said, yeah. I thought you were a fucking socialist, he said. He was right, though. He was right. Do you know what I mean? The difference, the kind of, the qualification in terms of success that I was putting on it was money. Fucking cardboard socialist. Do you know what I mean?
Or monuments, or yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
What's the measurement?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are we measuring it with?
Yeah.
And my measurement is love.
Yeah.
Because I've tried everything else. I've tried the size of me Mickey, the amount of cars I have, the amount of holes I can put me Mickey into. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever. The amount of stuff I can stuff into me body.
Yeah, no.
That's the value of stuff.
Yeah.
And so try them all. I'm not saying don't try them. And I'm sure you've tried enough of them. Alcohol or whatever the fuck. Try them all. That's what they're there for. But at the end of them, there's a cul-de-sac and there's a mirror and it shows you yourself, and then you just go back to where you started.
Yeah.
But where you started is that place called love.
Yeah.
But you also say, Dean, about create. And I find myself, you use the word love a lot, and I'm starting to use the word create in my life, like, because, people are saying, when they're lost or, they're stuck or whatever, I'd say, well, you need to create, and it's very hard to kind of bring the person from where they are to the create.
Very hard to move your elbow.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's the create, the college, the music, the singing, making podcasts, all that kind of stuff. And I had that thing in the beginning with the podcast where I was like, I was ringing Dean every fucking 15 minutes saying, what's the listenership, And he's saying to me, will you just let it flow, like,
Yeah, and that is the difference, isn't it?
And I couldn't get that until very recently, very, very recently, like, and it was actually true.
He's right. Look, I couldn't argue with that at all, because I think that's where the freedom is. The freedom is there, and
I'm saying try the other one. Try the metrics, try the numbers, try the money, try the cocaine, try, I call it the C's, cocks, cocaine, caffeine, chocolate,
try the whole
chips, try the fucking lot of Kango hammers. I done a gig up in Dundalk actually, and was this woman shouted out, Kango hammers! And I said, where's the Kango hammers going? Up me hole! Try them all! And
in a Dundalk accent, up my hole, hey!
Even try creativity, okay? There's another one. Even try that, and I'm telling you now, behind it there's another thing, and it's called love.
Yeah, it is.
No, that's the connection that I'm trying to make, but you wouldn't let me, you bastard. I was making that connection. That
I resent you very much.
I'm just plain terror.
You know, listening to your man Baz Black on the radio, you know, this morning, they were talking about the punk ethos, and I remember being in bands when I was, you know, a teenager, and actually, I was in a pretend band. We were in a band called the Joes. And we used to have pretend gigs, and we used to have pretend rows and all that kind of stuff. But it was a great bit of crack. Like,
I never heard of that in my life.
Yeah, you know the way I called Jeff Joe.
Right,
There was three of us. We called each other Joe. Like Joe, all right, Joe. He calls me Joe. I call him Joe. But we were the Joes, right? But we had this pretend band, and we were like have gigs.
Did you do pretend gigs?
No, we'd talk about them. So we'd be with our mates, and we were saying, "Jesus, that was bad when you fell off the stage last night, Joe." And he's going, "Oh man."
That's like fantasy within fantasy. That's fucking
It was amazing. But everybody knew we were having the crack. Like, nobody knew we were in a band called the Joes. It was hilarious. Like, but I remember that buzz, even though, you know, my band was a pretend band, right? But it was a buzz of, you know, going to gigs and, your man out of Black Flag, I'm trying to think of the singer's name. He's a social commentator now, like, you know, but he would talk about when he was in Black Flag in the band, that they'd get into a van and they'd drive. I mean, the vastness of America, like they were going from, you know, state to state to state, and they'd stay on their mates' floors in Seattle, and then they'd go somewhere else and they'd stay there. It was all like, and I mean, imagine what that's like when you're a young fella or a young one. What that's like, you know, being part of that. And that's called play. I think there's a play, right?
Yeah.
And then we start to grow up and we stop playing, right?
We do.
And recently, I've actually got back into play, right? Through, like, when I stopped drinking, I said to this outfit, what am I going to do? I'm bored out of my head. Like, and he says, what did you do before you drank, you know? And I was like, nothing. He's like, no, but what, you did something. And he said, did you play hurling? I said, no. Did you run? I said, no. Did you play soccer? No. He said, what did you do? And I said, I had a CB radio. And he goes, get yourself a CB radio. And that weekend I bought a banger of a CB radio and I started to fix it and that's what I do now. I put aerials up.
You play.
I play.
You play. And what you done with the Joes was you created a test space or a sandbox to test out life. Yeah. Because what you had been taught was if you do that out in the real world, you'll hurt people or you'll get hurt and you'll fail, and there's fears associated with that. And now what you're learning was fuck all of that. Do it all out in the real world.
Absolutely.
That's the ultimate sandbox. It's the ultimate play space. And be fearless in it, but with love.
Like, I've a mate that I grew up with, right? He could understand computer language, right? He was able to write computer... What's that?
Code.
He was able to write code.
Starting at the basics. He's able to write code.
He was able to write code from his head from when he was about 13 or 14, and he had a Commodore 64. And I remember he had this program that was a voice program that he like, you bought a book and wrote the code from the book, right? And so it was all kind of, you know, you'd be able to ask the computer a question, it would give you an answer. So we said to him, try and get it to say fuck off, right? Because that's when you're 13 and 14. That's what you do.
Draw a Mickey with it.
And he did it. He did it. Like, he had the thing with saying fuck off, right? And we used to drive, we used to hang
Stephen
around.
Hawkins, fuck off.
We used to hang around in his ma's gaff. His ma and was real, the house was open house, and we had it. That's where the band was. There was the garage in there, and there was an actual band, but one stage, I don't know what that was called, but we used to jam in there, right? And, but the ma was great crack, like, you know, they were great fun, and they were always very welcoming, and we used to have a Sunday, look, you were always invited to Sunday tea, and when he went off and joined the Air Corps, right, we went round for Sunday tea to his gaff, right,
And he wasn't there.
He wasn't there. He wasn't there for years, right? We used to crowd, right?
Fuck
if you
off.
weren't there, they'd ring it and say, "Where are you?"
The mother would be with the Commodore 64.
Fuck off.
Fuck off.
At the door. So anyhow, he got into building robots, right? And he was on that program.
With the robots and they kill each other. With
The
your
robots
man
would kill
who
each
was
other.
doing the crack, Craig, what's his
Robot
name?
Wars.
The Robot Wars.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
now,
Craig,
and
for
then,
referencing the crack there.
and then he was on recently he's been on an RTE show doing using technology for people with disabilities.
Oh,
There was one on, there was a woman, she couldn't see when somebody walked into the room who it was, so there was a tag put on that person on their keys, and when that person came into the room, there was a thing in her head that said Mick's in the room, Mary's in the room, right? So then it was deadly. His whole thing was building robots, and I was talking to him. I texted him the other night, and because there was a picture of a Dalek in a garden with a lawnmower, right, on Facebook, and I copied it and sent it to him, and I said, "Is that your gaff?" He was laughing about it, but when we were talking about play there, right, I thought
I looked at tangents at your fucking head.
Listen, you want to be in here looking out. Kaleidoscope, right? But anyhow, I'd be trying to think, how am I going to say that to them without But he always played. He always had that. He never lost that as an adult.
It was never
that create robots, building things, all that kind of stuff. And I loved that.
That's Bet Elvis with mortgages and fucking television licenses and shit like that. I think.
I'm so happy. One, I don't have a mortgage. Two, I don't do television licenses.
Right. Okay, well, then you can go out to play.
I can play all the time.
You can.
I have a really privileged life, as in every moment of every day I can play. I can be loving. I can be serious if you need me to be serious. I can occupy buildings and shit like that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of play as well, without, diminishing stuff like that. That's actually play.
Yeah.
So I wrote this: in the vast, eternal, timeless, spaceless, emotional universe of my heart, more is never enough. So I lean into less. And less is the space where I'm vulnerable, where there's less, where there's just me, where my daddy's not there, where my girlfriend is not there, where the cocks, cocaine, Kango hammers are not there. I'm leaning into that. It's a nice fucking place.
There's never enough of more.
Yeah, so in this way, say more is never enough. So I'm leaning into less.
So is that peace of mind, Ian? Serenity?
I'll explain it now in a second, right? And I those ones on Instagram. I just wanted to jump on here and say this: we think that people are interested. They're not. They have their own shit going on. So I put this post up. I just wanted to jump on here and cry and laugh and worry and give out and get angry and pass time and blame you and slag people and try to connect and hurt someone and pretend to myself. And I just want to jump on here and say what me soul sings. Which is a Sinead O'Connor Massive Attack song.
Yes.
Say what your soul sings to you. That's what it is for me. It's that place where we turn down all the distractions and we just listen to the silence of our own breath. And it's a spiritual space. It's a lovely fucking spiritual space. And I recently got it because I moved up to Dundalk recently and I was on my own for a few weeks. And then I was lonely for a few weeks. Then I was a bit sad for a few weeks. Then I was a bit depressed, suicidal for a few weeks. And in behind that, I found this place called Solitude.
Solitude is chosen.
Say that again?
Solitude is chosen. Isolation is given. Solitude is chosen.
Yeah. One is an imposed prison.
Yeah, isolation.
Yeah.
Solitude, you choose it.
And in behind Solitude is this place. It is a well, basically.
Yeah.
And I hear Damien speak of it all the time. It's a well of creativity.
Do you know what you're talking about, I think, is the essence of who we are.
Yeah.
It's the core of who we are, of what we are. And I think if we get an opportunity in life to feel that, to be there, that's what it's all about. I think that's what it's about.
That's what it's about.
And when you said to me,
right.
when you were talking about it, and I said to you, Dean, peace of mind and serenity. And again, I remember the same man that I said that about, I'm bored out of my mind. He says, don't mix up boredom with serenity. And, that thing that you're talking about, solitude.
Yeah, we think we're bored because the distractions aren't enough.
Yeah. And it's
we get all the distractions and it's still not enough.
It's the pursuit of happiness that depresses me.
Replace the word happiness with distraction, because you're looking for things to distract you from that.
Well, I had a goal when I came into recovery, and my goal was that I wanted to be happy because I was irritable discontent all my life, and then I came into recovery. I wanted to be happy, but fuck, was I looking for so much? Like I really was, because what I've learned is happiness is transient. It comes and it goes. It's the highs and then the lows, the highs and the lows. And I don't want the highs anymore because I don't want the lows anymore. I want the middle here.
Yeah, I remember saying that too.
It's a midstreaming thing.
Yeah, so what I've done is replaced happiness with peace of mind.
Yeah.
That's what I want now. I want peace of mind.
So I was telling Mick, I was trying to get out of the estate today, right? Well, I remember I was coming out of the estate one day and I met this older man, and he's very, very wise. He's a great guy, you know. And I'd say he has dark days, you know. And so I said, "What's the crack with you?" And he says, "Good. What's the story with you?" And I said, "I'm okay." And he said, "Fuck, I'll take okay any day."
Yeah.
And I drove off thinking, yeah, he's right. You know, okay, I'm okay with okay, you know. But I went to see Martin Stevenson. I don't know whether you remember Martin Stevenson and the Dainties, Mick. North of England guy. Holy Humble Heart was one of the songs that he sung, and you'll love him. I'm gonna introduce you to him because he's great. And he's still going, right? And he's pure punk now. He's pure DIY. And he has a festival in his back garden. He invites people up to
I like that.
for the festival. And no, he's deadly. It's like the Martin Stevenson Festival. They have a week and he's there the whole time.
And it's not imposed. You're not a prisoner. You can leave at any time.
But the first time I met him, he had stopped drinking, but he was still smoking. He was still smoking cannabis, right? And then the second time I seen him was down in Waterford, and he actually was one of the first people to start that voice in me to seek recovery, you know. And he said so when he's singing the songs, he kind of does a rap in the middle of it. No, it's not a rap as in, it's not American. It's his own voice. It's his own thing. But he kind of chatters in the middle of the song, you know, so he'll say something, and he might say something about what happened to him that day, you know, but he said this thing, which hit me hard, right? Which was, I replaced alcohol with creativity, and I replaced marijuana with meditation.
Yoga is the new yokes in York Street.
So it struck me, right? It caught me, right? I actually wrote to him the other day. I wrote a message to him I mean, that was years ago, right? Yeah. But I wrote a message to him the other day. And then I got, you know, when you write something and you have a big, deep meaning, and I sent it to him. And then I got this
thumbs up
fucking reply. Martin's not around.
I just poured my heart out.
I'm thinking, who the fuck is reading that shit, right? But he did reply himself, and he was sound. He was deadly about it. But the thing is that I just wanted to acknowledge to him that what he said had meaning, you know, because sometimes people, even after the podcast, you know, like, people will contact me. I was telling Mick, somebody contacted me who grew up in my estate when I was a kid, and he was making connections, and it was deadly, like, you know. I think it's important to get that feedback. And, you know, you said there about, you know, being a good person, Mick, and all that kind of stuff when you were talking. I think I'm a good person. Like, I get into looking sideways all the time, you know, watching what the fuck's he doing, what's she doing, how, and all this kind of stuff. And then I try to look out the stuff that Dane's talking about. Like, I try to get distracted, and it's only when I look in that I actually find that peace of mind, or that solitude, or that well. The well is a great way of saying it. The well, you know what I mean?
I think we all know.
Well.
I think we all know. Well, certainly I know the things that I want to do in life that will fulfill me. I know at this stage, at 50 years of age, I know, right? So I've always wanted to be an actor. Always wanted to be an actor, right? As far back as I can remember. And when I was a kid growing up, I was very good. Like, I was really good on stage and acting and stuff. And I've recently decided that 2025, I'm doing a one-man show. All right, so I've made that decision. I'm doing a one-man show. So it's now my responsibility to go off and start developing that, okay? And what I've also decided is, it doesn't matter a shite to me if people come to see it or not. Doesn't matter. It doesn't. I don't
It's a
care.
nice place to be, Mick, isn't it?
I do not care if people come to see it or not. But
I'll be there, Mick.
But huh?
I'll be there.
Well, that's one.
I'm not turning up.
That's one.
I'd say Vin Diesel is shitting himself looking at you.
So I'm doing it.
So I done the Spirit Store a couple of weeks ago. I done an hour show, which was stand-up comedy. To do an hour show is something that you build up over 2 or 3 years maybe. Then you do an hour show. You'd go to Edinburgh or something like that. So I done it. I gave myself...
Did you do Edinburgh before?
I done Edinburgh twice, yeah.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah. And like quite well. I would have sold out 2 venues for 2 years in a row.
Good man.
Which is like, it's good crack. Like
Serious.
But what the approach was, just write the material, work on it, have as much fun as you can doing it, and then play the gig like you're already dead. Like it's already over. Like you've already got all of the stuff you wanted to get from it.
Yeah.
And just go at it every day like that. Like it's already done. So all of the wanky monuments that you're trying to build in your own head to yourself and bouquets of flowers or whatever, all that's already done. It's sorted. And then the lovely stuff, as Damien says, the channel opens and it just flows through you.
Brilliant.
You know?
That's
So just and then you can have much more fun.
Yeah.
You can start to play an awful lot more.
Yeah.
You were talking about the not going after the highs and staying away from the lows. What I've learned for me is there's another step is lean into the lows.
Yeah, I haven't mastered that one yet.
So this is the way I see it.
I haven't.
Imagine you are the sky and the highs come in as big white clouds and the depression or whatever, the lows come in as big dark clouds. Now I used to hang on to them and look at them and fucking cry and all that type of stuff and be afraid of them. And now I just look at them and go, yep, there's another cloud. There's another cloud. There's another cloud. And then I would look for the clouds that I was adverse to and look at why.
Dive into it.
Yeah, why am I,
Yeah.
without getting all wanky and analytical and Jungian about it, I just look at it going, here's an example. Why do I resent me mother, for example? Okay? Now, consciously, I didn't know I'd done that until I went and done ayahuasca. And then my mother was there with her body and her vagina and her boobs luring me daddy in to have 6 kids. And I was just thinking, that's fucking fascinating. That to me, as somebody who's really into spiritual stuff, why am I holding on to that one? Even subconsciously, why am I holding on to that one? And I just play around with it. And then I understand it. And then I just go, okay, well, that's something else I can play with now.
I think that idea of the lows, right? So COVID arrived. Before COVID, you know, I'm doing a bit of teaching in Minute and doing my radio show. I'm touring in America 4 or 5 times a year for like 3 weeks at a time. That kind of thing is going on. And COVID arrives. Bang. Everything stops, right? Everything stops. So I'm no longer Mick O'Brien, the folk singer. I'm no longer Mick O'Brien, the lecturer. I'm no longer Mick O'Brien, the radio presenter. Now I'm Mick O'Brien.
Oh, shit.
Why, Jesus, did I go down?
I love that.
Oh, fuck.
remember.
You witnessed it, Sparky.
Well, I witnessed. So you recorded a podcast. You done
I done six
right?
episodes, yeah.
And just before we go there, right? Amazing interviewer, and you interviewed Damo, you interviewed John Connors, I think.
John Connors, Ken Casey from Dropkick Murphys.
I didn't see. Oh, that was online, wasn't it?
Luca Bloom. Yeah.
Luca Bloom was an amazing one. Then you went into the darkness. Then you went into the.
I went down further. I went down further than I actually believed that there was a depth. I went down further, and to the point where the place I was living, you were in it, in the middle of nowhere. Into the kitchen one day. Where am I going to put the rope? And it was gone to that point, like, you know. And I hadn't physically told everybody, but I had indicated to everybody to go and fuck off, right? And slowly but surely, I was cutting people out of my life until I was in this place on my own. And the rope option was certainly an option. And it was at that point that I realised, for the first time in my life, that Mick O'Brien, the folk singer, doesn't exist. That Mick O'Brien, the radio presenter, doesn't exist. Any of them things don't exist. They're not my identity. I exist. These are things I do. I exist. And it was when I realised that, I slowly started to come back up. It's like the boxer. It's like the boxer who wins the title and then they retire.
So it looks like a rope, but it's actually a ladder.
Isn't he fucking profound?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
But remember,
It's a rope. It's a rope until it's not a rope anymore.
Yeah.
And what you're learning is being honest about your rope is there's liberation in that.
Serious
so
liberation.
kind of you have to thank the rope a little bit.
Well, I think it's like what we talked about a few minutes ago. You have to hit the bottom before you can come back up again.
And the bottom is not where you think it is.
No.
it's the gift.
It's
the gift of desperation.
It is, yeah.
It's the gift. I know you've.
There's a great song. Will you write that song?
The gift of desperation.
Uppy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
have a go at that. I'll have a go at that.
In country, the gift of desperation. I actually, when I was growing up, I had no interest in country music, but every time I pick a guitar up to write a song, it comes out as country. What the fuck? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, does a ghost of a fucking country singer
I always knew you looked like Tommy Winnett.
Oh!
Sparky Rhinestone.
No, but seriously, every song I write, when I pick up a guitar, I did a songwriting course with Colin Querney, and every song I wrote was it was deadly.
The qualities of inclusion. What are the ones that you're
Inclusion,
aspiring
equality.
to or espousing?
Yeah, inclusion, equality, empowerment.
Now they could be wanky phrases, but
Yeah,
I
but
actually
they're
think
not.
you've put a bit of effort into it. I think there's a little bit of traveling in behind them, and you've probably came in with 20 and you've got rid of most of the shy, and you've ended up with, say them again, inclusion, which means what?
It means what Sparky done with the guy in Minute.
Yeah, what you're trying to do with the fella in Ring's End.
Exactly.
You're trying to bring yourself in by bringing other people in.
Absolutely.
It's Apollo House.
So you're working on them to work on you, to work on them to work on you.
Yes, and the fundamental piece around human existence is that we are social creatures. We depend on each other. We need connection with each other.
Yeah, and also that we think for a long time that we're separate from each other, but we actually realise that we're all the same person.
Yeah,
that's inclusion.
Mick O'Brien on stage doing the songs and doing the commentary is inclusion.
Yeah.
Mick O'Brien, the lecturer, like when Mick does a lecture, he plays a song before each session, puts up YouTube, and absolutely floors people, because people aren't expecting to go into a lecture. Generally what happens when you go into a lecture is the lecturer is busy at the computer trying to get the notes up on the...
Yes, it's a top table authoritarian thing.
Yeah. Right.
Rather, yeah.
So Mick comes in and he's standing at the top of the class, standing there, and he's just greeting everybody, and then he plays a song, and people are like, what the fuck? So that's inclusion.
It is inclusion.
But I think there's another angle to it, because you could have, say, leadership, right, which is, lads, take that box and push it up the top of the hill, or there's you used to do it like this, let's all drag the box to the top of the hill. But I think what you've learned is, we're already at the top of the hill, let's just slide down.
Absolutely.
Let's have the crack and slide down.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's inclusion, and then what's the other one? Empowerment, which is that.
It is.
Which is about perspective shift.
It is.
We're already at the top of the hill.
Yeah. So the 6 or the 9,
if you want to feel that you're at the bottom in the gutter and oppressed, great, but that's a perspective.
It is, yeah.
And then what's the other one?
Equality.
What's that?
Well, I think when we talk about equality, I think we have to talk about it in two different ways. So equality of opportunity and equality of outcome.
Yeah.
So equality.
I get a bit lost in the equality of outcome because in my head it doesn't logically resolve itself because we can't all have the same outcome.
Why not?
I don't know. I get a little bit lost in it.
Why can't we? And I think that question,
because it feeds into the whole thing of meritocracy and all that type of stuff.
No, I don't think it does. I think
as in you get out what you put in.
No, I don't believe
that's capitalism.
That's equality of outcome is for me a fundamental human right. I believe that equality of outcome is a fundamental human right. So 3 of us go to Maynooth University today. We'll say we start a course in September. I think everything should be put in place. The support should be put in place. So I'm going to need more than you need and Sparky needs because I'm dyslexic, right? So I'm going to need more. They should be there. I shouldn't have to go looking for them. I shouldn't have to pay 500 quid for a fucking psychological education assessment.
So in the analogy, the box that you need to stand on needs to be twice as big as the box that Sparky needs to stand on because he had middle class experience.
And
that's more leaning into what's called equity.
Well, equity is the word that's used.
Yeah.
But I think the word equity devalues
I agree.
the thing of equality of outcome. I think it devalues that.
Right. And then there's the other thing is, if the three of us have skills and we sell those skills in the market, if I can negotiate a better contract than you, my outcomes are different. And I think that that's okay too.
I don't think that's okay. When I worked as a youth worker, I worked in a particular organisation, and your wages was based on how good of a negotiator you are or were, right? I think that's fundamentally wrong. I think it's fundamentally wrong that if I have a degree in applied social studies or whatever the case may be, and I have X amount of experience, 5 years experience, my wages should be boom. That's the way I believe it should be. So that's equality of outcome. Not because I can negotiate better than Sparky.
Yeah, well, look, you have the Ryan Tuberty effect, right? You had this thing in a job called Employee of the Month. And
Did you ever win it?
No, he won cunt of the month.
what I done was I suggested an alternative one just for balance, and I put up a picture frame beside it and I labelled it cunt of the month, and I said that's what I'm going to aspire to, because I feel like when I aspire to the other one that I'm undermining not only my own skills but also the ability, the capability of the people that I work with, that's being challenged on a monthly basis. Yeah. And that to me in a community setting is more tending towards capitalistic aspirations.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I said, that's why I used the word, capitalism there. But I think equality of outcome is doable, right? I think it is. And I think we would live in a far better society if everybody had similar or the same outcome.
I think like, if we look at equality of opportunity first, right? So equality of opportunity is that, again, hypothetically, the three of us had to Maynooth in September, right? And we're doing the same course. So depending on our background, depending on our situation, so Sparky might be at home, he might have 4 children at home, and he might be a single parent, he might need to work after college. So he goes to college and you do your education, you go home and you start delivering pizzas at night, and then you have 4 children as well that you need to take care of, right? So Dean doesn't have any of that. Okay, he has none of that. So he's getting funded by parents or getting funded by whatever the case may be. So you go to college and you go to the pub afterwards, and then you go home and study, and then I'm there and I'm in the middle of you somewhere. That's equality of opportunity. And we have that in this country. And there's no point in saying we haven't, right? So when Varadkar stands up and talks about we have an equal educational system, what he means is that we have equal opportunity within education. Mm. But what that does is breeds inequality. You with me?
No.
Right, so equality of opportunity breeds inequality.
No.
Okay, go on.
Equality of opportunity breeds inequality. I don't get it. It doesn't click in me head.
Okay, so we all are provided with the same opportunity, okay, for education. So you can apply through the CAO, same as Sparky, same as me, to get a place in college. You get your place in college, that's where the equality stops.
The entry point is the same,
yeah,
but then the rules after that aren't the same.
Spot on. That's equality of opportunity.
Okay.
Equality of outcome.
But how do we get to the entry point? For example, if I'm a young traveller,
yeah,
right, and we all know
a young traveller can apply through the CAO system the same as anybody else. And this is what will be said in the Dáil. Varadkar said this many times. Your man Simon Coveney will talk about this and he'll say equality of opportunity, yes.
What I'm talking about is how do we get the traveller to the door in the first place? For me, there's a load of work to be done before that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But the opportunity is there.
Let's say the opportunity is at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Some people can get a helicopter up there.
They can.
Other people don't even know the top of the hill exists.
Exactly.
And other people have been told, when you go to the top of that hill, they're just going to kick you back down here.
So for equality of outcome to happen for that person, then we need to go back to primary school.
Yeah.
Outcome there.
That's a great example of all of this was COVID. And you had a minister saying, look, everybody can get an education if they just turn on their laptops, right? So you had... Assuming, right, that
everybody can get to the top of the hill once you get in your helicopter. What if you don't have a helicopter?
Exactly. Right, so not everybody had laptops. And then I'm laughing because one of the young people that I work with, he had a doll's head in front of the camera. And he had a kind of, whatever way it was, like, it looked like he was sitting there at the thing, and he was off playing.
Yeah. He was off playing.
Off playing. Anyhow, just to say this, so the laptops, right? During COVID, travellers were still living in trailers on sites with electricity generated from diesel generators and stuff like that. And the government were just saying everybody can still be educated. Everybody can still be educated. And it was a major...
That's not equality of outcome.
No, that's not equality.
And the other thing about that is there's a system in Ireland called Children's Allowance, which happens is the first Tuesday of every month or something like that, right? Everybody that has a child in Ireland gets Children's Allowance.
It's not means tested.
Not means tested, right? So if I'm earning 30 million a year, I still get Children's Allowance, right? I remember working in a school. I was teaching VTAC level 5 at the time, and there was teachers in the school, and I was listening to them in the staff room saying, "Oh, I saved my Children's Allowance for my children to go to college," and I go, "What the fuck?" I've never heard of this before.
I buy dinner out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know? I buy shoes for the kids out of it. Do you know?
Yeah.
And it dawned on me like, this is a load of shite, like. It really is.
Well, it's only a load of shite from your perspective, you selfish prick.
Well, no, I don't think so.
From their perspective, what are you doing them out of their God-given right? You know what I mean? Equality for all the children and all that.
And that's not equality of outcome. That's equality. That's opportunity equality.
Is there a place where this exists? Like I'm thinking Cuba, for example.
There is places where there's a quasi kind of socialist system that exists from each other according to our ability, to each other according to our need, which is the famous Karl Marx statement. Like if we look at some of the countries in Scandinavia, Denmark, like in Denmark, you reach the age of 21. On your birthday, you can rock up to your local authority, get your gaff. I don't think it's not rocket science. Do you know what I mean? That's equality.
Yeah, they had a thing when I went to Finland to look at the house and stuff. They had a thing called housing forced. Yeah. As in the first thing that you get is a house.
Exactly.
Here, it's coming in very slowly. And we're also in the middle of there's global migration. So it's kind of difficult as well. But here for years it was the last thing you get is a gaff.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Get your shit together, get off the drugs, get your education, jump through 50 hoops. By the way, while you're doing that, we're milking the fucking golden calf over here.
That's right, yeah. And make sure you have your social identity card in the middle of all that, you know?
There's a thing I looked at the other day, and this is why I'm talking about leaning into the stuff that we fear, that we're adverse to, and looking at it. And we talked about before was Roman gypsies. So they're called gypsies because there was an idea that they came from Egypt, but actually I think the more research pieces that they're from India, that they were a tribe in India. There was different tribes that were disrupted, and one of the tribes, which was the Roma, left India. And so they went into Europe, and we kind of get this traveller gypsy Roma type of person in our cities now. And when we look at it, for the most part, it disgusts us. Now, we don't mind being entertained by it, as in the gypsy songs or the Charlie Chaplin dance, but we want to slag it and shout at it and blame it and portray it as unhuman. And I find that that's really, really interesting. And I know why we do it. It's an emotional, psychological thing that we're trying to protect ourselves because our foundation isn't solid enough.
I think it's a little bit more pronounced than when I go to England, when I go to London, going there in a few weeks' time again. But you've been around the pubs, maybe in Camden Town or in Kilburn or places like that. And there is an ethnic minority group called the Irish of the 60s who carry that status with them.
Yeah, to be the 80-year-old drunken whiskey-nosed, pissy, smelly Irish man
who was living in a spike or a hostel or in a Georgian house with 40,000 people living in it, and they're Corcorans, they're Scurries, they're O'Briens. Do you know what I mean?
They're all the names on that list in Pontins that they didn't want to their business.
Yeah, and it's the same kind of thing.
So we are the Roma. We are the gypsies.
It's fluid, isn't it? You know, it's fluid because, you know, you've got, you know, all those different groups that were the Irish were were demonised. You've the Jews, you've the Native Americans, the Aboriginal Australians, all those groups that are pushed aside and looked down upon. And it caught me, when the Roma thing caught me, like I was in town, I was looking at these people saying, who are these and what's the story? And I couldn't connect with them, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of demonised them in my head. Like, I remember talking about this in college, Mick, you know, and that cognitive thing in our heads, like, and one of the lecturers was saying that she had, like I was saying, when I was growing up, Protestants, I didn't like Protestants, and even when I met Protestants, I didn't like them and want to like them, or whatever it was, right? Yeah. It took me ages to kind of turn that switch off, you know? She was saying she was reared, her father was a farm manager, so they lived in a house that was owned by the farmer.
Yes.
And she couldn't call him names, or she couldn't say anything against him because they'd lose the house. Yeah. They'd lose their identity and lose their house and lose everything. So she hates, when she heard farmers being interviewed on the radio, she'd just get this rage, like, you know.
That reminds me of, I certainly don't want to break any confidence here, but there was a girl that that was in a class that I was teaching in Maynooth. She was Roma. She was just amazing. She was just like, she was profound in everything that she said. Her energy, her presence was just so energizing for everybody else. And she had no idea of it herself, right? And at the end of one of the groups, I was teaching group work. We were doing a group work session. And at the end of it, I said to her, and I looked her in the eye, and I said, "You're absolutely brilliant. You're amazing," I said. She started crying. And I was looking at her, and I was getting emotional myself as well. And I said to her, why does that affect you so much when I say that? And she said, "Well, I've been living in Ireland for the last 5 or 6 years. Nobody has even indicated anything like that to me before. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's the opposite."
Yeah, absolutely.
We're too busy seeking our own distractions.
Yeah.
And they don't have the privilege of being able to be distracted by anything because they don't have that.
No.
They don't have that. They're living on a different frequency. They're tuned into a different radio station. There's so much love and community in them, and all we see is the scruffy, smelly, stealing vermin. That's all we see. Yeah. And what I'm saying is, if you see that, lean into it and ask yourself, why is that what you see?
Oh, yeah, that's what I had to do. I know what you're talking about now, Dan.
Lean into that. Lean into
it. I had to lean. I actually leaned into it in college. That's where I leaned into it, and surrounded by travellers, you know, and they were shocked that I was so honest about it, like, you know. But I leaned into it, and then I understood what it was, and it was nothing to do with them. It was got to do with me.
Yeah, it's our stuff. And what we gifted with in this podcast is we're all able to reveal our stuff. That's what people are getting from you, Sparky. Yeah. Just let me get this out. The gift that we can give here is our vulnerability, is our honesty, is remove the masks, is the laughter, is the tears, is the song, is all of that type of stuff. And all you're doing, Mick, here is you're providing a space for Sparky to be more fucking vulnerable because he loves you and he invited you here for that reason.
Yeah, well, I love him too. And I think I've been listening to Sparky. I've listened to the 6 episodes of your podcast, and I've known Sparky for 100 years, right? And I have great respect for him, and I love the man. But I'm only getting to know him through this podcast.
He's only getting to know himself.
It's fucking...
He's only revealing himself to himself.
It's unbelievable, Dean. Yeah. I was driving along in the car. I was coming back from Portlaoise the other day, and I had the latest one on with Ryan. Yeah. And something you said, I can't remember exactly what it was, but something you went, I went, holy fuck. I said, who the fuck is this fella? Do you know? Like, the stuff that you've been talking about are so profound, and you're really opening yourself up, man.
Yeah, but I can say the same for both of yous, like, you know what I mean? Like, I do listen here to Dean, like, when Dean started off with Ryan last week, and he was just talking about that, if you're going to be acting, get used to failing, like, you know?
Yeah.
And I just, holy God, the depth of it, like, you know? Yes, the same with you, Mick, when you interviewed Damo I asked Damo afterwards, what did you think of that? And he said, Mick listened. He didn't keep coming straight in with the next question, like, you know, and he waited for me to answer, like, you know, and I seen that with Luca even as well, like, you know, I think there's a depth, you know, within us that we don't get to, like, when me and Dean were starting the podcast, we were kind of saying, well, what's the rules of it? And I was saying, well, let's not slag each other. Let's not get into that slaggy thing that we all do, you know, and we haven't done it, you know what I mean? And we didn't do it, and it was brilliant, you know what I mean? And actually what's happening, because we're not doing it, and I'm not doing it here, I'm replicating that in other places. And I'm saying those things that you said to that woman, right? And I know that woman who you're talking about. Yeah. And I'm saying to young people, you know, that was brilliant what you done there. The young fella playing the guitar. Yeah. I'm able to say to him, that was amazing. You know what I mean? And it's the beginning of something, like, you know what I mean? And I just think the more that we can do that with each other, like what your man had when he came into recovery, love, it's a love thing, you know what I mean? Rather than this critical, you know, I spoke before about being on groups on Facebook, and somebody puts up, what feed should I feed this dog, you know what I mean? And then somebody says poison or something.
That's more cynicism, I find. Yeah, we're trying to undermine the other person because of our own insecurity.
Absolutely, yeah. Lean into that too.
Yeah, look at that. Just have a look at it, reflect on it, you know. It doesn't, just give it a bit of time, meditate on it. I had a question in my head, just about your dad. Where's your dad?
Oh, Jesus. Well, his ashes are in my brother's house. I think he's out there in the ether somewhere. I think for me, from my head, I have to believe that he's somewhere. I feel his presence around me.
Yeah.
I do. I can feel his presence here this morning, you know. And not that there's little robins hopping around or anything like that.
Quavers?
No, none of that. Quavers. Who was that? Peter Kay. Peter Kay, yeah. Not that there's anything like that, but I do feel his presence in me, you know. Luca Bloom has a great song saying, and the chorus of it, the man is alive in me.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. And I said to Linko last week, I can see the man in you, but you know what I seen today?
Go on, Dean.
Michael.
Yeah. Do you know what somebody said about us, Dean?
Thanks, Michael.
Do you know what somebody said about us during the week? He said, I love the podcast. He said, it's like Terence and Calvin.
It's talkabolics for over 50s.
That's what he said. It's like Terence and Calvin at the grown up.
We're not exclusive. We can under 50 as well.
But that's what he said. It's like Terence and Calvin grown up.
And from those two men, we're learning. We're being liberated as well.
Absolutely.
I think so too.
Oh, yeah. No, we need to learn from the young as well. Yeah.
This has been an amazing experience.
It has, hasn't it?
It's good crack, isn't it?
Do you want to sing a song, Mick?
We'll sing a song, yeah.
Yeah, do that. I'm going to come over and give you a hug.
Good man. What you want to sing, Mick? Was down in Kilkenny where the great row was making, and poor little Jimmy Murphy was the last to be taken. We're far from the last road, from the east to Downpatrick, where
there lies little Jimmy Murphy on the sweet green mossy banks. Kill-a-ma-link, kill-a-ma-joe, whiskey frisky tooraloo. Dank-a-diddle-day road, full-day-road, full-do. Well, little Jimmy Murphy wasn't hung for sheep stealing, but the courting of a pretty girl, and her name was Nancy Whalen. We're far from the last road, from the east to Downpatrick, where there lies little Jimmy Murphy on the sweet green mossy banks. Kill-a-ma-link, kill-a-ma-joe, whiskey frisky tooraloo. Dank-a-diddle-day-row, full-day-row, full-day.
We marched through the towns and we marched through the city, and
with our hands tied behind us
and the ladies cried pity.
We're far from the last road,
From the east to Downpatrick, where lies poor little Jimmy Murphy and the sweet green mossy banks.
Kill-a-ma-ling, kill-a-ma-joe,
whiskey, frisky, turtle-oo.
Rank-a-diddle-day, road, fall down, fall down. Hey!
Kate Wait.
Thanks, guys. That was amazing.
Episode 7.
Episode 8.
Episode 8?
9.
Episode 7. Mr. Michael O'Brien. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mick.
Thanks a lot, Dean. Thank you. And Sparky.
Thanks.
I love you, man.
I love you too, bro.
Thanks very much. Thanks to Ger as well.
Ger Kelly. So this episode is recorded by Ger Kelly. So it's going to sound savage. And if you want podcasts done, I'm sure Ger is going to make his services available. What I'm trying to do is turn this space into the podcast capital of the north side of Dublin. Yup, the flats.
Here, fuck off, will you? Fresh, yeah?
Hello?
Hello, yes.
Hello, are you the typer?
Sorry?
Are you the typer?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just wondering, I need stuff typed. How do we do this?
How do I do it?
No, how do what I have is, I have raps, right? I have like 800 raps that I need typed out. And I know this might sound a bit much work for you, but it'd be great, because I can't type at all.
Right, 800, is it?
Yeah, it's like a rap, you know, like a rap, like, I need stuff typed up from my record label, I do it myself, but I'm not really able, like that type of stuff. I have loads of them, right?
All right, okay, yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. No, I'll tell you, I'm just out at the moment. Can I ring you back when I get back home?
I just, can you tell me just maybe how much you charge? Like, does it work by the letter, or how does it work?
No, it depends really on, is it kind of for advertising, is it, or something like that?
I need to give it to me record label because they're looking for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends really on how, it is 800, is it?
The 800 raps, each rap,
yeah.
So, some raps might be big and some might be small,
small, I know, yeah.
Have you typed raps before?
No, I haven't done raps now, no. So,
right. There's not many big words in my raps. They're all, the biggest word in my rap is probably reckon it or something like that, you know what I mean?
I know, yeah, that type of thing, yeah. No, the thing is, I'll be able to decide, how many words would be in each one?
Say, here's an example of a short one. You're wrecking me head because you're not listening to me. I don't mind calling you because my phone calls are free. That's like one small one. Yeah.
Oh, I see, yeah. All right, so that gives me an idea. So I'm just actually in the shop here at the moment. So can I ring you back when I get home?
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Okay.
Hello. Is that Pluto's?
Yep.
Pluto's, how are you? I got your name from a friend of mine, the Black Arrow. He says that you're probably one of the best doing the tattoos and all.
Oh, that sounds good, okay.
Savage, are you open today?
I'm not open till the afternoon because I gotta do some running around.
And are you busy,
I'll be in the afternoon probably after about 3:30 if you want to pop in and explain what you want to do.
Are you American, Pluto?
No, I'm from Cabra West, but I grew up in Canada.
Oh, that's the deadly accent you have there from Cabra. Come here, I never had a tattoo, but I'm going to prison, so I'm looking to get a Polish belly dancer on my back, right?
Yeah.
Not a big one, just half the size of my back.
Do you have some pictures that you like, or?
I have a picture of a belly dancer, but it kind of has to be a Polish one, right? But, I don't know how you make someone Polish,
Yeah, well, you bring in the stuff that you have, because, I can't tell you over the phone. You bring it in what you have, show me what you got, and then I can tell you what we can or can't do, and we can make an appointment from there. And
the other one is, right, just for my forearm, when you pull up your sleeve, the other one is a picture of Mickey Mouse, right, eating Chinese food, right, but he has... What's that funny for?
It's funny. Go on.
Right.
Mickey Mouse eating Chinese food, but he has what?
But he has a Tibetan flag wrapped around his shoulders. It's kind of a little bit political.
I think you're having me on, huh?
No, honestly, seriously,
Okay, listen, I'm busy with some stuff now. So if you're serious about it,
it's just the way the political thing is and the Olympics and all that. It just gets very frustrating, Pluto. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you can pop in and explain to me what you want. I'll be open after about 3:30, right?
All right, Savage Cabbage, Plutos. Take a handy, man.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.